So I joined a club for women in their 30s who are trying to manifest a husband in 7 weeks. And I may or may not have caused it to suddenly and violently implode around week 4. Before we get into the story, there are a couple of notes. If it's not abundantly apparent, I am not a woman in my 30s trying to manifest a husband. I am a male human in my 20s, living in New York City, just trying to make some friends and be normal. The second is that this story will contain the word wiener. And if that makes you uncomfortable, it's too late. I've already said it. And I'm just using this word to protect you from another word, the real word that was used in these exchanges, which is much worse. So a while back, my friend had a birthday dinner, and I was sat across from this striking young woman who was kind of reserved, and we didn't really chat much until I found out that she was born in the Balkans, and she found out that my dad was born in the Balkans. This is always an exciting but risky discovery because you have to play a little bit of geography to determine if your ancestors were enemies or had a common enemy. But we're all adults in the new world, and we were going to prove to our ancestors that peaceful Balkan coexistence is possible, and certainly nothing would go wrong. There would be no violent eruptions. After chatting for a bit, she mentions that she has a book club, but then quickly kind of retracts and goes, I don't know, I shouldn't mention this. It's embarrassing and it's so personal and I don't know. And I say, that's fine. You don't have to tell me about the book club. We can talk about other things. But then she reverts again and goes, I'm reading this book. It's called Calling in the One, 7 Weeks to Attract the Love of Your Life. It's written by this woman named Catherine Woodward Thomas, who in 7 weeks manifested a husband. And if it worked for her, it's probably going to work for us. She tells me that a group of women are going to be meeting weekly at her apartment in the West Village, and they're going to have snacks and discuss the results from each week of the 7-week program. And they'd all find husbands. And she says that I should come. I'm not out here trying to manifest a husband in 7 weeks, but I am trying to make friends. And so I agree. So she sends me an address and a PDF of the book and tells me that the first meeting is in 24 hours, and I've got a lot of homework to do. I have about 100 pages. From this point on, we're going to refer to this character as Headmaster because we all kind of referred to her as Headmaster, and she would check our homework. So on the subway home, I start reading the book, and although it's a little bit weird, I try to keep an open mind. Each lesson follows a similar pattern. Usually, the author will tell you some stories from her life or from a friend's life, and she'll analyze it, tell you what went right or wrong, and then give you some homework to do. Lesson 7, I believe, was making space for love, and it's all about making sure that your physical space is primed to summon the husband that you're trying to manifest. So there are a few components to this. The first one is that the author believes that you should throw out any flowery, frilly, or lacy things because those things are essentially wiener blocking talismans that are bad energy and they keep men away. Another thing you should do is make sure that in your bedroom you don't have pictures of your parents or a graduate degree because that's also kind of a wiener blocking thing. But the most important takeaway from this chapter is that you have to think like a pair to be a pair. So you can't just have one coffee mug, you have to have 2 coffee mugs. So she tells the story of this man named Jeffrey who manifests a wife by reorganizing his closet. So he cleans out his closet and makes half of it for his future wife that he's manifesting, and that's how he summons her. So the homework for that week is that you have to go around your living space and evaluate whether or not it's welcoming for a partner based on Woodward Thomas's descriptions. If you've seen my apartment tour video, you'll understand why this was a very distressing and revelatory chapter for me. But anyway, it was fun to do, and I actually read ahead, and I read about the book as well, and I found out that the author is the person who coined that thing that Gwyneth Paltrow was saying, the conscious uncoupling. And I also found out that the author came up with this term when the husband that she manifested in 7 weeks filed for divorce. But I kept an open mind because this book club was my one-way ticket to Sex and the City style friendship. And who doesn't dream of having that in the big city? 24 hours later, I'm done my homework and I report to the location that was texted to me. And I'm on this dark, creepy, narrow West Village street. I hit a buzzer. Headmaster lets me in. I'm very happy to see her. And her apartment is beautiful. She leads me through a few rooms until we get to a back room that is very dimly lit. There are candles going. There are some snacks out. There's an open window with drapes that are being rustled by the wind, and you can hear light chime noises. And it's a very spiritual setting. There there aren't really many people there, and headmaster tells me that the attendance count is lower than expected because one of her pupils was reportedly running late and has been eliminated from the program due to their lack of commitment. But there was still a good circle of us. It was some of New York's most beautiful, eligible, successful women, and me. But everybody treats me like I fit in, and the conversation is really nice. So even though the book was a little bit weird, the conversation was actually pretty generative. Everybody was very open-minded, and I felt like I could really just express myself. So I take a particular liking to this one woman who, I'm gonna generate a pseudonym for her. I'm on namegenerator.org.uk. Okay, so Name Generator says we're gonna call her Mary. So Mary is also from the Balkans. So I'm starting to discover that this is like a little Balkan husband manifesting circle. And I'm charmed by her bluntness and self-awareness. Basically, she's in this long-term situation with this guy who we're also gonna give a pseudonym, Kieran. And Kieran is emotionally unavailable, even though he kind of keeps Mary around. And he just wants to focus on his kids and his business. And this is kind of weighing on Mary a bit. So Mary realizes that she needs to cut loose from this guy in order to really manifest a husband in 7 weeks. So we just have little conversations like that until headmaster adjourns the meeting and we go our separate ways. So this goes on for several weeks and it becomes the highlight of my week, genuinely. And it feels like my own little Balkan version of Sex and the City. And I am the Sarah Jessica Parkovich at the center of it all until week 4. Week 4 is where things started to go south very quickly. The conversation turned to me and my dating experiences. And now at the time, I was working 3 jobs and I was writing my thesis and I really wasn't going on dates. I'm still not going on dates, but that's a whole other conversation. But that week in particular, somebody asked me on a date. And given my circumstances, I basically just said, I'm not really dating, but maybe another time. So I'm telling this to the group and I noticed that what I'm saying is really irritating Mary. She's joining via FaceTime and I can just like see her in her little FaceTime box. It's like basically vibrating. She's like shaking her head and is getting really angry. So it really looks like she wants to say something. So we kind of pause and wait and she goes, I know everything I need to know about you. I know exactly who you are. I know exactly who you are. You are a narcissist. You have narcissistic personality disorder. It's all about you. You're just like Kieran. You're just like Kieran. And you know what Kieran thinks? Kieran thinks that when you make love, you lose all of your power through your wiener. And that's why you won't go on dates. Because you are just like Kieran. And you think that if you make love to somebody, you're going to lose all of your power through your wiener. And I pretended like nothing was happening, but it became increasingly difficult to ignore. I'm just kind of sitting there trying to figure out what to say. And I'm like, maybe me and Kieran have some similarities, but the thing about the wiener, so I'm just kind of mumbling and fumbling for a bit until headmaster abruptly ends the session. She doesn't assign homework for the next week. There will be no next week. Headmaster has seen enough. And so headmaster dissolves the group because of the conflict over the wiener power that erupted. So would the program have worked after 7 weeks? I guess we'll never know. And I don't know what the moral of the story is. Maybe I have a personality disorder, or maybe it's just another example of poor Balkan cooperation. Perhaps that's a discussion for the comments and or my therapist. Regardless, I love telling you stupid little stories about my life, and I hope to tell you another one soon. Until then, take care. See you.